Welcome to the Dreamlands. We are back in the deserts of Kharak. So this is going to be the first in a series of cast in which I'm going to cover the 2 versus 2 team tournament, Kharak's Crusade, which happened just this past weekend. So each cast is going to cover basically one entire round. From what I understand, I wasn't able to participate myself, but from what I understand, it was a Swiss format, so every team fights every other team, and then the winner is decided by points, I guess. So yeah, we're going to do one cast per one round, and then go through, and I'll probably upload one round every week on the weekend or so. More if I can get to it, but definitely one a week. So, and this is actually going to be an extra special cast, because for this I am joined by Majir Pack 2 as my co-caster. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? Major Pack 2 speaking.
There he is. It's going well. So anybody that isn't familiar with Majir, I'm sure most players that follow the game are. He is a very, very good player and has a lot of game knowledge. So I'm pretty excited to get his perspective in on these. We're going to be doing the replays so that Majir is watching from one team's perspective while I'm watching from the other, and then we're just going to coordinate our casts like that, so we'll be able to kind of have a broader perspective on what's going on in the game. And for anybody not aware, actually, Majir himself casts DOK as well, and his casts are really on point. I highly recommend you check them out, so I'm going to leave a link to his channel in the video description, and I recommend you go over there and check that out. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into round 1, match 1 from the 2 versus 2 tournament. This is going to be Megarith and Coercer versus JHS and Saturas, game 1 on Tiran Passage. Loading into the replay now.
All right, looking forward to this one.
Hell yeah,
I did play in this tournament. We're not going to be watching one of my games for another game or two, but this was a fun one. It was an exhausting day, because it was best of 3s, and you played many of them. It was like, I think, 4 best of 3s, and sometimes they go beyond just the first game or two. So exhausting day, but a lot of games were had.
Nice. Yeah, I was kind of bummed that I couldn't make it into the tournament. All right, so I am paused at 29:55. Let me know when you're loaded into the replay and pause then too, and we'll do a little countdown.
Yeah, I messed up, so I'm at 29:54. Does that mean that I go 1 second more, or that I'm 1 second behind?
No, I just went to 29:54 too, so...
Okay, perfect. So we can do a countdown right now and start in 3, 2, 1, go.
We are a go. So I'm going to introduce Team 1, and then Majir will introduce Team 2. So spawning on the south side of Tiran Passage, we are going to have Team 1, and it is going to be Megarith playing as the red and white coalition forces. Spawning directly to his left, his ally for this entire series, it is going to be Coercer playing as the standard colored Soban. So a coalition and Soban team.
Okay, and in the north, how do you know it's the north and south, by the way?
I
don't even know how you tell the directions. I guess you just make up whichever it is.
Yeah, I just save from whichever the replay perspective is for me. So
right. Well, in the north, then we'll decide on that. I am watching from the perspective of JHS, who is in his looks like red and black Gaussian. It's really deep crimson red there.
Yeah, it looks pretty damn cool.
Also, Saturas in his Knef carrier here, black and red. And so we've got really sort of a Gaussian factions versus coalition factions game going on here.
I really like it. And not only that, but we have represented in this game one of every faction in the game. So that should actually be really, really cool. Now, we do have AAV fabrication coming up already from Megarith. So he is pretty much following what is the standard coalition playstyle these days, going for that AAV rush. And I can't see what Coercer is doing, but okay, I can now. It looks like he is going for support cruiser first, so an economic build. I don't mind that synergy, having one player rush while the other player does kind of like an econ focus. It tends to work out pretty well in 2 versus 2. And both of their base runners have come up into mid, possibly looking to do some turret lockdowns and grab some artifacts, so we'll see what happens here.
Man, so far on the Galcian Knef side, we see a lot of sand skimmers coming out. They're going to be scouted over here by Coercer, although he might get shot down before he can see that massive skimmers.
Yeah, that is
I
quite a
did see
few.
the research for JHS was already... it's a little undecided. I guess he was researching Power Reserve, and then canceled that, and now he's researching Sand Skimmer Raiding, and we'll see what he does from there. He sort of researched Assault Ship Fab and canceled that, so he's a little indecisive right now.
Oh no, that's never a good thing. But it looks like so far, all 4 of our players have fully saturated their mains and are long hauling resources from their their first expansion site. Coercer's support cruiser just hit the field, and he's moving his carrier up to his expansion site, so he is looking in the lead by far in terms of economy. We also have 3 AAVs coming out across the map for Megarith now. They do have armor level 1. So definitely sticking to the very specific timing attack with these AAVs. Just coming across the dune now. We'll see how many he really gets onto the field now. Coercer and Megarith have both grabbed an artifact.
Oh, that was 2 different players. Yeah, you're right. You gotta, and it's 2v2. We really gotta watch who the factions are.
Yeah,
we can see these sand skimmers finally rolling in. They were scouted a bit by one of those probes from Coercer and Megarith's team, but they're gonna make short work of this base runner.
Yeah, and it looks like we do have armor upgrades for the sand skimmers from Saturas. They're able to clean up one of the artifacts, but they are definitely going to get pushed back by these AAVs. Even this number of skimmers, I don't think stand a chance against even 2 or 3 AAVs with 1 armor upgrade.
I was going to mention that there are armor upgrades already on Megarith's 2 AAVs here, and with a single player controlling that many sand skimmers, I think you might be able to micro it, get up on the high ground, and really just wear down that AAV. But with 2 separate players, you know, you've got 2 different heads doing the thinking and the playing, and it's not something I would try in that situation, I think.
That's right, and that's a very, very good point too, because we do have 5 for Saturas, and then, oh man, we've got 7 for, what's his name there?
It was quite a
JHS.
number, yeah. Even with the armor upgrades, 1 AAV would have been achievable, I think.
Yeah, probably. We do have a heavy railgun on the field now for Saturas. That is a good answer, though. But it looks like they're just a team 2 there. The Galcian and Knef team is a little bit apprehensive. Those AAVs scared them away from mid, and it looks like they're probably going to... team 1, I mean, Coercer is probably going to deliver this artifact for a 1-0 lead.
Could
Pretty
be,
big attack
this
coming in
railgun
here.
is doing a really good job at holding off these AAVs and keeping them from getting into the base of JHS and Saturas. Meanwhile, these sand skimmers here from JHS roaming around, not finding the railguns from Coercer that are hiding back at home, and not really able to make an incursion into Megarith's territory. So we have this one railgun really facing off against these AAVs and these sand skimmers. It looks like the railgun's going to go down, but there was an opportunity there to maybe take that out. And meanwhile, the base runner could go down as well.
Yeah, it looks like that base runner is definitely going to go down. That is just a ton of skimmers. Even half that ball, which is going to divert and clean up that base runner, while the other half goes after this AAV. 1 AAV for a railgun trade. I'm going to put that in Megarith's favor for sure.
It was really funny noticing that there was a blob of sand skimmers at the base runner, and then a blob of sand skimmers over by the AAVs, and they switched positions. Again, you know, 2 different decision makers playing here. One of them said, I don't need the base runner. The other said, I do. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And it looks like a couple of missiles is going to almost clean up this AAV, which is just being a total nuisance back behind Saturas lines. Now, we do have a ton of AAVs. I just want to bring attention to Megarith's spread on AAVs. He does have his support cruiser on the field now, so mining fully from 2 resource locations. Coercer is now starting to long haul from his 3rd, so Team 1 looking very strong in terms of economy, and an absolutely absurd amount of railguns. We've got 9 railguns from Coercer now on the field. They do have their damage upgrade as well as their armor upgrade. 1 armor upgrade and the mag field accelerator upgrade as well, so that is pretty damn terrifying. Taking up a pretty dominant position on the top of this dune here. That is going to be incredibly hard to push up against. And then Megarith has missile batteries on the field, and a nice spread of AAVs. He's got one AAV at pretty much every single resource location just to help prevent any kind of skimmer backstabs and whatnot. But I really, really like how Coercer and Megarith are kind of coordinating their unit composition. I really like to see this in team games. Megarith coming out with AAVs and missile batteries and a massive number of railguns from Coercer. That allows each player to kind of focus in on one tech path and make that tech path really, really strong.
Yeah, I'm just gonna briefly take a look at this fight right now that's occurring between Coercer's railguns and JHS's sand skimmers. No real damage done to Coercer's units here. I've been watching the units lost tab here, and Coercer is still not really losing anything.
Yep.
Used the mark target ability on the Soban railguns to take out those sand skimmers, and normally you think of sand skimmers as being a hard counter to railguns, but with the Soban railguns, once they get masked up, they can use that mark target ability and gain an additional accuracy bonus against, or rather, they can impart an accuracy bonus for their other allied ships. So against a blob of sand skimmers, that can work really well.
Absolutely.
And now they're just rolling across this map again.
Very,
and again,
very good
we
point.
sort of see the Saturas sand skimmers not in the same group as JHS's sand skimmers. So not there when JHS was to be able to clean up these railguns.
This is a pretty nice move from Saturas, though. He kind of went wide with his sand skimmers, and he's coming around the backside to try and flank out the big railgun blob of Coercer, but some nice micro. Megarith pulls back an AAV to try and slow them down. That AAV is getting focused down by Saturas railguns up on the dune, so some really nice positioning there. Those railguns and those AAVs, those AAVs and those missile batteries are all toast, and now Saturas sand skimmers is right in among all of Coercer's railguns, and is just going to slowly start picking them off. They do have a second armor upgrade now, though.
Excuse me, sorry. Saturas' rails were in an excellent position there, not only because they were up on top of a dune, but because they were firing into a space where Saturas had vision. And
exactly.
In team games, that can be big, but also Saturas was providing his own vision there, and so he had superior range purely by virtue of the fact that he could see farther.
That's a very, very good point. I like that unit synergy, again, used really well by both teams, and damn, that was actually a pretty good fight. It looked like a convincing victory there for Coercer and Megarith. However, a really, really nice play by Saturas, totally evened the odds there, and now it looks like we've got a bit of a standoff. Carriers coming up into the front middle of the map to try and hold this off. Now, what do we got for upgrades? We have full armor upgrades for Megarith's AAVs. Those are going to be a huge, huge pain in the ass for JHS. They're probably going to clean up all of these salvagers. And more AAVs, more and more railguns.
Unit synergy that the defensive AAVs that were at Coercer's base are Megarith's AAVs.
Yeah.
Megarith really built all of the AAVs for this team, and Coercer is building all of the railguns for this team. They have this planned out.
Exactly, and
all
I
of
really
these
like
railguns
that.
now are taking out, I'm seeing the warning here, 13% damage on JHS's carrier, which is going to go down.
Absolutely,
to a
it's
whole group
gone.
of spawned railguns. So that's a big blow, and this is looking like the beginning of the end here.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, Saturas and JHS aren't out of it yet. I mean, they can both still produce units, but the problem is Megarith has 3 AAVs right in among all of JHS salvagers. His carrier has gone down. Some really nice mark target use from Coercer, and now I would be worried about Saturas' carrier here out in the middle of the map like this. I mean, he has taken some convincing victories in some of these engagements with a very, very nice position here on the top of this dune, but finally those railguns are going to get cleaned up, and it looks like Saturas, pardon me, is going to be forced to flee with his carrier.
Yeah, and the Knef carrier is very vulnerable to a group of railguns like this. If
Yeah,
you're fighting with
absolutely.
the Knef carrier and you're trying to use it offensively, you want to be behind a dune. You want to be using it for indirect fire, and as soon as you get in direct range like this, you're very, very vulnerable because there's not much armor on a Knef carrier.
100% sure. You either want to be behind some terrain or behind a couple of siege cruisers, which I would have liked to see. They're very, very good on this map. In particular on this map, I find siege cruisers really difficult to dislodge from these large terrain features. And again, with that marked target on the Knef carrier, and look at how fast its hit points plummet.
Down to 16 armor at this point, meaning it has as much armor as Megarith's AAVs.
That's hilarious.
At least some of them. There was a vetted AAV that had 16 armor.
Yeah, that's well, this. Why did that one have 16 and this one? There it goes. Ah, that's why Sunder from the railguns, which does -4 armor.
Yeah.
So that's why we were down to 12 armor there briefly. But it looks like the jaws of death are slowly closing. Coercer's ridiculous blob. How many railguns does he have? 4, 12, 13 railguns here are just going to camp on top of this dune and destroy everything that comes out of this carrier and out of these production cruisers. JHS has been completely shut down. I don't even know if he has anything left on the map.
No,
he does
his
not.
production cruiser, his last production cruiser was destroyed. He has one base runner, and that is it.
Well, it looks like we are seconds away from the end of the match here, and there goes Saturas carrier. That was actually quite a good game. I did enjoy it a lot. Well played by both teams. I would have liked to have seen some artillery come out from Saturas, some siege cruisers. I think that would have been extremely helpful against those giant rail blobs.
Yeah, additionally, some more coordination between their sand skimmers, but also some raiding maybe on Coercer's side, because Megarith very quickly had AAV defenses up on his side and was helping Coercer a bit, but early Coercer was a little softer, a little more vulnerable, so some early pressure there might have helped. I will say it's very clear what strategy Megarith and Coercer are going for here, at least if you pay attention to the unit labels, and maybe in the heat of battle, JHS and Saturas weren't doing that, and I could understand why, because they just see a wall of red coming at them. But if they start paying attention, they realize every AAV they see is Megarith's and every railgun they see is Coercer's. So what happens when you, say, target Megarith's economy? Well, now Coercer either builds railguns, and he can't really defend against resource incursions with his railguns, or he has to switch techs. So we'll see if maybe in Game 2 their strategy evolves a little bit.
Yeah, very, very good point. And I think a lot of that came down to early game scouting. Team 2, Saturas and JAS simply didn't have the scouting information they needed. And like you had brought up, with that number of light vehicles on the field early in the match, going support cruiser first is extremely, extremely risky. And if they would have scouted that, they probably could have done a fairly significant amount of damage to Coercer in the early game. So let's jump right into Game 2 on Canyon Outpost. And this is going to be... I'm going to be watching from Coercer's viewpoint this time.
And I'll be watching from Saturas' perspective.
So I'm just going to load up the replay right here. And then again, I'll pause it at 29:55. Same teams, same factions, and what is probably my favorite 2 versus 2 map in the entire game, I gotta say, Canyon Outpost. I love this map.
You know, I have mixed feelings about this map, but we'll get to the countdown and get started here real quick. So I'm at 29:55. So in 3, 2.
Hang on. I'm still loading in.
Okay. My bad. Sorry.
No, it's all good. 29:55. I'm paused there.
All right, we'll do this again. 3, 2, 1, go.
Off we go. So
I will. Canyon Outpost is an interesting map for me because on the one hand, I really love the layout and the broad strokes with these choke points and with the large mountains that block line of sight and block vision, and block movement. On the other hand, near the bases, there are these little dunes that, you know, if I was here, I would just build a bulldozer out of my carrier and plow them over and get rid of them because they're so annoying. They let the enemy just come up right there and sit behind the dune and then hit your resourcing and then retreat again. We need some combat engineering in this game.
It's not nearly as bad, in my opinion, what you're talking about as a map like Torin Crater, which is a nightmare if you're Coalition playing against a Galcian or Knef. But yeah, I see what you mean, especially near the starting location. At any rate, I'm going to introduce Team 1. We will go into Majir introducing Team 2. So once again, we have spawning on the south side, at least south for me, of Canyon Outpost. We've got Coercer once again playing as the standard colored Soban forces. His teammate Megarith playing as the red and white Coalition. And it looks like, really briefly here, we do have a totally different play. LAVs, very, very early LAVs coming out from both players, streaming out onto the right side of the map, and both base runners again heading through mid.
That's really interesting. Even if JHS and Saturas learned their lesson from last game, they're going to have a hard game this game based on
I
that.
agree.
Speaking of those players, JHS is in the red and black Calcian, and Saturas is in the red and black Knef again. So none of these players picking random, none of these players changing it up for this game. And on the JHS and Saturas side, we have sort of the opposite. We actually see no Sand Skimmers coming out quite yet. More of an economic open, it looks like. I'm seeing refinery mode being researched right now from Saturas.
Oh,
So
wow.
that, in contrast with now 15 LEVs, or is that 13 LEVs out between Megarith and Coercer that are massing now right ahead of this bridge.
Yep, we don't have any
now
upgrades
moving
yet
in.
for them. Pardon me, I didn't mean to interrupt you. We don't have any
Oh, no, that's all
upgrades,
right.
but there are so many LAVs that I am actually kind of worried for both players on Team 2 right now. This base runner is going to get absolutely wrecked right here, right now.
Yeah, upgrades or not, you don't need much upgrades when you're not really going to be
Exactly.
coming up against any opponent ships. I mean, there are no Sand Skimmers here, there are no assault ships here. Railgun fabrication tech is coming out 40 seconds away for Saturas. I can't see what JHS is teching, but unless he's building assault ships right now, he's in trouble.
He's not. He's actually, Saturas is building. I have the production tab up. I pretty much leave it up the entire time. Saturas is actually building another production cruiser, and JHS is building Sand Skimmers, which I think is a bad idea, but a massive missile hit. Oh man, that was awesome.
There are some really good missile hits coming out here from Saturas, and I'm a little worried about the friendly fire because Knef cruise missiles do impart friendly fire damage. That said, between the two carriers, it looks like they're cleaning up this LEV blob pretty well, and I'm not sure that Megarith and Coercer are really getting the value that they could have been getting. It looks like they did take out a production cruiser, so that's not nothing, but you could have taken out a production cruiser with maybe fewer than all of those Sand Skimmers. So taking a quick look at the map, they do have map control pretty firmly in their hands. They are recovering 2 artifacts right now, and that's not going to do a whole lot for Coercer as the Soban player, but it's going to be pretty good for Megarith with his carrier guns. And that's bought them time, where now Coercer is building, he's bringing out a support cruiser, Megarith is bringing out AAVs.
Yep.
So
it's sort of like a delayed, like the same build they did last time, but they delayed it behind a big concerted LAV push, which I really, really do like. Again, I don't think they did as much damage as they could have or should have. Picking up a production cruiser is a big, big hit for Team 2. However, they invested quite a lot into that attack, and it could have been far more devastating than it was. They actually, Saturas and JHS held that pretty damn nicely, I gotta say.
Yeah, bringing their carriers together was the right idea, for sure. And I think Coercer and Megarith could have been better served, maybe even splitting up and just attacking each of the resource points in order to try and box in their opponents. As it is, their opponents have a little bit of time to recover, which means that Saturas now is on 3 bases.
Damn, very nice. I like that. I've just been spending the time, like, panning around looking at the map while you were explaining what was going on. And I have to be honest, one of the reasons this is one of my favorite maps is because, in my opinion, it's the best looking map in the game. I find the lighting on this map just makes everything look so damn good. This map is beautiful, man.
It's also got lots of little tight fighting zones with all of the obstacles and everything. There's not really any big field of battle on this map.
Yep.
It's a lot of little ones, and you have to manage them all, which is why right now in Sensor's View, I'm just zoomed all the way out because I want to be able to see the whole thing.
I mean, to be honest, I think this is one of the maps that really, really favors the Soban. Especially if the Soban player spawns on the side of the bridges. It can be pretty much impossible to push over these bridges with a Soban player camping here. Super
ALMs
frustrating.
Can allow you to become very entrenched.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got mass rails coming out from Coercer again. No upgrades yet, and we do have mass AAVs again from Megarith, and he does have 2 armor upgrades. So looking pretty damn good here. Now the question is going to be, what is Team 2 up to? Like, it's been pretty, since that early LAV push, it has been pretty quiet here.
The whole game's been pretty quiet, and I'm seeing some really interesting tech and production coming out from Saturas' side here. We do see assault ships coming out from JHS, but from Saturas, we see a whole group of assault railguns.
Yeah, I'm right on top of
Now,
them right now.
Saturas has both railgun armor level 2 and also the assault rail dart ability researched, and he's just now finished researching heavy railgun ranged calibration.
So he's going.
Saturas is gearing up for both a heavy and assault rail, just brute force hammer, I guess, right? I mean, with the assault rails, with dash, or with the dart ability, excuse me, he can take care of LAVs. With the heavy rails, with ranged calibration, he can fight at extreme range from safety. And he also is producing with 3 production cruisers, moving his carrier out. He doesn't have another base to move towards, so he's actually thinking about using his carrier offensively, I believe. He has researched Power Reserve 1, now is researching Railgun Armor level 3, and as I've been speaking, this is such a long tech that it's been researching this entire time I've been speaking, Honor Guard Cruiser Fabrication.
Oh my god, nice. And that is Saturas you're talking about. That's crazy.
This is all Saturas. Meanwhile, JHS producing some assault ships, and it looks like some heavy railguns as well. My only concern for Saturas is that he had such a CU bank and not very many RUs, so it's going to be interesting to see if he can keep up with this railgun production.
Oh, good god, look at the army that is camping out Team 1's extraction zone.
Yeah, this is disgusting levels of force here, and they're not even really positioned all that well. We've got some AAVs sort of just sitting in the trenches, and the railguns sitting on either side of the dunes. They're not really guarding the extraction zone so much as just trying to hide their massive army.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a ton of stuff. There's now 12 railguns, and Jesus Christ, 14 AAVs. Oh man, that base runner got evaporated. Now, I think
went down very quickly, and now Sand Skimmer's coming up for Saturas, so he's burning down that CU bank, still has quite a bit, and I'm not seeing the Honor Guard Cruiser coming up yet, but you know what? An Honor Guard Cruiser against that kind of massed railgun could be very, very effective if he could get the right angle.
Very, very effective. Now, I don't often see Knef players outside of Tren build Honor Guard Cruisers. I know, personally, I never ever do, but it's pretty interesting to see, and I really, really have started lately appreciating the assault railgun and heavy railgun combo. That 1-2 combo is actually extremely good, and it looks like, oh boy, Team 1 is pushing around with a massive blunt force attack with this entire army all along the left side of the map, coming right now through Team 2's extraction zone, and it looks like they're going to try and push in for the kill. They are up 2-0 in terms of artifacts. They have a third that's en route, but they have scouted the positioning and the composition of Saturas' force, and they're just going to outflank him completely using this big group of close terrain here.
And they're just coming up visible here for Saturas. I'm not even sure if the full force of Saturas was scouted by this Coercer and Megarith group here. We're going to see there's going to be a lot of potential damage on both sides. Saturas is going to be forced to retreat his production cruiser, but meanwhile, a lot of Sand Skimmers, 15 at least, are coming in behind Coercer's railgun blob, not actually fully protected by these AAVs.
Yeah, I see that.
I'd love to see Saturas' assault rails here move up and take care of those AAVs, but it looks like they're sort of distracted, and he's not sure what to be doing here. Meanwhile, they're taking a lot of damage from aircraft, so moving now, but this is going to be a close fight here, and it's going to depend on a lot of their quick decisions.
I agree. Now, Megarith does bring back his AAVs, and he's able to totally just spam smoke and protect the vast majority of Coercer's railguns, which are just pummeling Saturas' forces. Like, ruthlessly, man. Saturas has lost almost his entire army at this point, and it was a nice flanking maneuver, but unfortunately for them, some quick reactions by Megarith, and that kind of swung that combat decisively in Team 1's favor here. They were also able to pick up one of Saturas' production cruisers, and pretty much the entire resourcing line now is in dire jeopardy as Team 1's massive blob just pushes through. They're going to get this production cruiser for sure. They're going to get all of these salvagers, and that's going to force Saturas' hand, but I mean, we've got strike fighters in the air, and I just don't know.
There quickly, because there are strike fighters coming in which are going to take out the rest of those railguns if he just sits there. At the same time, Saturas is just now popping out an Honor Guard cruiser and has a second one building.
We do have an attack from JHS, going all, like, the entire time that this battle has been happening, and I haven't noticed it.
Yeah, this looks like Megarith really just standing off this carrier and a couple of assault cruisers directly against some JHS
man.
railguns. Unfortunately, very clustered up there. They're going to take some air damage.
These assault railguns are going to absolutely clean house. Megarith's carrier dangerously close to going down, though. That was a really nice push from JHS. Now, it's a pretty tough call. Like, if he would have swung around and outflanked Megarith and Coercer as they were attacking Saturas, it probably would have swung that very initial battle drastically into Team 2's favor. But as it stands, he did do a pretty decent amount of damage. Not enough, though, I fear, because most of the damage got soaked up by Megarith's carrier, which he can just go and repair. As opposed to...
That was not economic damage that was done. All the economic damage was done to Saturas, who is now mining off of no bases. Something I noticed, by the way, that I just wanted to point out before we get too far into the fight is that when Coercer's railgun blob was in Saturas's base, Coercer didn't have armor upgrades. So it's really amazing that those 15 Sandskimmers didn't do much damage against those railguns, and the railguns were really all damaged by this honor guard cruiser and by the remaining assault rails of Saturas. And that
nice.
the Megarith smoke did such a good job at protecting those railguns, even though they were unarmored.
It really, really did. That was a clutch move by Megarith there. Really nice response time. That's what I like to see. We've got 2 honor guard cruisers now on the field for Saturas, so that is going to spell quite a bit of trouble for Coercer and Megarith if they choose to stick with their current composition and try a similar strategy again. I think things will go down fairly differently this time with a couple honor guard cruisers. Few more production cruisers now back on the field for Saturas, so he's back to mining from 2 resource locations. He did take a pretty big hit to his economy, but I mean, given a little bit of time, he can return from that, and JHS now is coming onto the field with a massive number of railguns backed up by assault ships. We do have 2 armor upgrades, I believe, for the assault ships, as well as 1 armor upgrade for the heavy railguns. He doesn't want to push across this bridge into the teeth of these assault cruisers, though. That's suicide. These 2 assault ships are dead.
This is definitely a risky position. We can see Megarith there using his missile ability, taking a lot of damage on the assault cruiser, though, from the railguns.
Oh, a clutch smoke.
Risky, that was very good smoke. The reason I say it's so risky is because when somebody has assault cruiser tech, you know that artillery tech is not far behind, because nobody gets assault cruisers just for the sake of assault cruisers. They're not that strong. If you want to have a big blunt force unit, you might as well get battlecruiser tech. But if you want artillery, you have to get assault cruisers first.
Yep,
so
very
in
good
this
point.
Position where Megarith has his forward carrier, I'd be really scared of artillery coming. I'm thinking I've got to get Megarith off of that position as fast as I can before he can hold this bridge forevermore using artillery.
Pretty much, I agree with you there. And you often see on this map where the bridge side of the map becomes basically like a no man's land. Neither player can push across. So eventually, one team will just gang up on the extraction zone side of the map and try and sweep across, as you saw Megarith and Coercer do. Now we've got a massive ton of railguns from Coercer coming back onto Megarith's side of the map, strangely enough. And just as you called it, the first artillery cruiser...
Yeah, I see the artillery cruiser building for Megarith there. Surprised it didn't come earlier, but maybe the tech... Oh, actually, there is one on the field. You're right. Okay.
Yeah, it just popped. So that is pretty terrifying. There's almost no chance that JHS will be able to push across this bridge now. That's going to have this entirely locked down. We've got 2 artillery cruisers, a couple of assault cruisers, and a carrier there, so that ain't happening. And back on the left side by the extraction zones, interestingly enough, Team 1 did grab that 3rd artifact. However, Team 2 has subsequently grabbed an artifact, and they have a 2nd that's almost at the extraction zone, so they're going to actually turn this into a pretty damn close game. Coercer and Megarith just could not seal the deal.
Yeah, not with artifacts anyway. And both teams being very passive here, which is interesting because there was air and there are artillery cruisers and honor guard cruisers on the field. There's a lot of long-range ability to project fire and do damage, and neither team is really taking advantage of it. They're both building up such large forces before even trying. These missile batteries over here from JHS are taking out UAVs. There's
Nice.
a fight here that's over by Megarith's carrier, a little bit of exchange of railgun fire. as each side gets visibility, but no real show of force here, and no war of attrition that's coming in here, which I would have expected given the unit choices.
Yeah, now we do have a couple of, this is the second barrage to hit these units. However, with a couple of armor upgrades and the ability to regenerate that damage on all of these Galcian units, you can kind of eat a couple of artillery barrages, and really, it's not a big deal. Now, we do have a siege cruiser out, though, for JHS. This is a very, very good choice, especially on this map and in his position. So he's going to kind of turn this into an artillery stalemate. Neither player, as I mentioned before, able to push across the bridge. Oh, big barrage going out. Where's that going to land? Right where Megarith's army used to be.
Worth noting as well that, yeah, Saturas' missile barrage there took out an entire wing of LAVs, and I'm a little concerned that Saturas is actually moving this far forward with the KNEF carrier. He has a really good position with this dome and this rock here, where he could just sit his carrier behind there and just wander around, and whatever side the Coercer railgun block comes across, he could just be on the other side of it. But,
I agree. I feel like he does have an advantage, though, right this minute with his army composition and his army size. And if he pushes now, I think this is the correct response from him, to tell you the truth, because he'll be able to pretty much clean up all of these units from Megarith and Coercer and secure their extraction zone. And I think that's what he means to do, because he feels the pressure. They've already got 4 artifacts. They're about to grab a 5th. And if they don't do something about this, that'll be game.
I think we're seeing a big misplay here from Saturas, though, because he just lost an honor guard cruiser to artillery barrages. And look at how massed Coercer's and Megarith's forces are right around Megarith's carrier. This is so vulnerable to artillery, so vulnerable to honor guard cruiser blasts, and neither player is applying those forces on this big, big, juicy target right now.
Yeah, I gotta agree.
Many cruisers and many railguns that could have been all gone, and they're all protecting this carrier that could be very vulnerable.
I mean, that's just screaming for a nuke, but we do have a pretty massive number of JHS's railguns, which are going to eat some artillery fire. They need to keep on the move there. But with a pincer attack like this from both players, they could actually do serious, serious damage. We do have JHS's carrier coming now through mid, and a huge number of railguns backed up by a siege cruiser looking to get the flank there. But at this point in the game, I think that Coercer and Megarith just want to hold the ground as long as they can and try and get the 6th artifact in, because it can be really hard to commit and kill a carrier from either the Galcian or the KNEF. Like, they can just dance back and forth behind this terrain and shove missiles down your throat all day long, and it can be really, really hard to make them commit to an engagement.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, Megarith has lost his economy for the most part. He still has 1 base with support cruiser there back home. But Saturas' army is not doing so well. He built another honor guard cruiser. He's just never found a position where he could really take advantage of it. So he was skirmishing with some assault cruisers that were able to use missile barrages over the terrain, and just never really able to apply fire with that AoE hit from the railgun.
Yeah, and I think that's coming down to a lack of scouting information. Like, both players have to know that the enemy, like, Team 2 has to know that Team 1 is camping where they are. They've spotted it, but they are just not keeping tabs on the exact precise location of their opponent's armies. And now Coercer has moved a massive blob of railguns supported by an artillery or an assault cruiser all the way across the left flank and pushed Saturas back. His carrier's in trouble. And yeah, again, they just weren't able to really pin down where their opponent was. A nice barrage, finally. This is what I wanted to see from the siege cruiser.
A lot of missiles here, yeah. This is great.
Oh, I can't believe that siege cruiser's still alive. It was eating missiles from strike fighters, which I noticed before.
A lot of missiles all around. So Saturas' cruise missiles also hitting some of Coercer's railguns and getting some good hits. But, you know, I noticed JHS on Megarith side of the map never really pushed in, and I think if he wanted to, he could have pushed in and taken out Megarith's remaining support cruiser and resources, taken out Coercer's resources, taken out his carrier even, or at least pushed his carrier off, because a Soban carrier can't do much even with free power upgrades.
I agree, and it looks like JHS is finally flanking with some serious force here with his railguns, pushing Coercer or Megarith back into the mid. But this fight on the left flank again is just Saturas is just not able to get his footing here. The macro is too good from Team 1. They are going to destroy yet another cruiser. All of these sandskimmers are going to get cleaned up. At this point, it's just a desperation move from Saturas.
There is an interesting opportunity here. Saturas is focusing all of his Knef missiles, which he has at level 4, into Megarith's carrier, which is at level 5 armor.
Oh my.
Now, I would say the Knef carrier here is in the greater peril because there are a lot of railguns chasing, and it looks like his carrier is going down very fast. But if you could get away from those railguns, it might be an opportunity to take out Megarith's carrier here. Looks like it's not going to happen there.
No, the problem is with Soban railguns and their increased rate of fire combined with the mark target, Soban is probably the best faction for killing carriers. Like, a group of railguns like this will just make your carrier disappear in moments.
Yep. And now JHS's forces still not really consolidated. They have so total control. I mean, JHS really owns Megarith's side of the map. Megarith's original side of the map, I should say, and isn't capitalizing on it. And Saturas really sort of owned the area around the Team 1 extraction zone, or a little far away from it for a while. Didn't quite capitalize it, wasn't able to scout it, and wasn't able to take advantage of his 3 honor guard cruisers that he had up at once.
I'm really shocked, to tell you the truth, that I haven't seen a single nuke this game. Like, one nuke from Team 2 could have basically won them the game when both players were camped by the 3rd artifact on this map.
It would have been a Galcian nuke because the Knef don't have a nuke, so that would have been challenging. Well, here's a nuke, okay.
Oh, nice, there we go. Couple of huge artillery barrages with a nuke, and that cleans up basically this entire army's toast. Look at that go.
Now, you can imagine what would have happened if that nuke had gone off when Megarith and Coercer were all clustered around Megarith's carrier in that one spot where they didn't even really have room to move.
That's what I'm talking about, that 3rd artifact there.
One way, they'd hit JHS's railguns. If they moved the other way, they'd hit Saturas' railguns. If they moved the 3rd way, they'd hit Saturas' honor guard cruisers and Knef carrier.
That's what I was mentioning before.
Been perfect time for it.
That would have been a game-winning move right there, and now I think JHS has overextended his carrier big time. You don't want to go into the teeth of this many Soban railguns. He's going to regret that in a big way, I feel. I mean, they're not out of it yet. They can pull this out.
Of heavy railguns, which is quite potent, but he doesn't have them in a great position yet. They're all blocked by these terrain line of sight blockers, and his carrier, if it doesn't get out right now, is going to be in real trouble. That said, these railguns, if they can apply damage to Megarith's carrier, could turn the tide of this.
Look at this giant blob of Soban railguns. It's over. JHS's carrier is about to go down. There it goes. That was actually a really, really damn good game. A little bit of, like, extended lengths of passive moments, but overall a huge macro game, and I always do enjoy those. So well played to both teams, and congratulations to Megarith and Coercer. They're going to take the point for this. How does this work exactly? Is it like you get points for victories and artifacts, or is it just like a point for winning?
Just based on victories, and so it's not so much that they move on to the next round, because everybody moves on to the next round, but when they move on to the next round, they will be fighting other victors from this first round. And
and the losers fight the losers.
Exactly. And it's a little mixed because you can end up, being a loser in one round and then a winner in another, fighting a winner from the first round. And so it's not quite a rigid bracket. It's really based on the points that you accumulate throughout, and then the points determine the final winner. And I believe in this cup, the idea was that there would be a tie-breaking game on another date based on the results of the first 4 rounds. If
neat.
There were any teams that ended up with the same number of points. And I don't remember if that actually happened or not, but we'll find out.
Right on, man. That sounds very awesome. So that's going to be the end of round 1. We will bring you guys round 2 as soon as we are able to organize and sit down. I will do this entire series of 2 versus 2 tournaments as a co-cast. Because I think it's really cool to have both perspectives of both teams. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, smash that thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. And let me know what you think in the comments. And also, again, make sure that you jump down to the link in the video description and go check out Majir's channel. He has some really good Deserts of Kharak casts. If you enjoy competitive Deserts of Kharak matches, you will like his channel. So I'll leave that in the description. And I want to give a big shout out to Sinistro for hosting this tournament and for providing the replay packs. And again, a big thank you to Majir for joining me for this round.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, man, I will see you guys next time.